Hello, friends. This is Confessions with Amy. Here we share new confessions every day.
They told me I was the heart of the family. Turns out, hearts are easy to cut out. I'm Marlo Whitaker, 29, born and raised in Ashbourne, a small industrial town outside of Portland. People here like their beer cold, their problems ignored, and their daughters silent. I was never good at any of those things. When my father, Franklin, called me that night, his voice was cracked open like something broken. "We're drowning, Marlo," he whispered like he was confessing a crime. "The company's falling apart. We could lose everything. The house. Your mother's health insurance. It's bad." I should have paused. Should have thought about all those Christmases he missed because work was more important. Should have remembered the time he told me business was no place for emotional little girls. But instead, I packed my things and drove straight home. Whitaker Freight and Storage, our family's logistics company, was suffocating in debt. Missed payments, delayed shipments, lawsuits knocking at the door. My father and mother, Lorraine, had no answers, just desperation and the illusion that I could fix what they spent years breaking. "Cash flow is king," I told them. "I'll negotiate with the creditors. I'll handle the books. But I need full access." They didn't even hesitate. I think they were too relieved to notice they were handing over their last chance to the daughter they never really believed in. Over the next 2 years, I worked like my life was on fire. And maybe it was. I sold my apartment in Seattle, liquidated my savings account, canceled the trip to Florence I'd been dreaming about since college, even put off the minor heart surgery my doctor recommended, said it could wait, but I knew it probably shouldn't. But Whitaker Freight couldn't wait either. I built relationships with new clients, slashed waste, sat across from creditors who called me sweetheart, and left those meetings with reduced settlements and extended payment terms. Some nights I'd sleep in the office, head on my laptop, too exhausted to make it home. It was working. The business was breathing again. Orders were rolling in. We were solvent. I saved us, or so I thought. When my father announced we'd have a family dinner to celebrate a new chapter, I thought maybe, just maybe, he was going to hand me the keys. Not because I needed them, not because I wanted the title, but because I'd earned it. That night, sitting around the oak dining table, my father raised his glass and said, "We've decided that from now on, Whitaker Freight will be led by someone younger, someone with the right energy to take us forward. Your brother, Grayson, will be the new president of the company." Grayson, my baby brother, 24, charming, irresponsible, and blissfully unaware of the weight I've been carrying. "He's got potential," Dad said. "He's a natural leader. It just makes sense." I felt my heartbeat slow. My skin didn't flush, didn't tremble. I just felt empty, like I'd been scooped out. I smiled. I raised my glass. I congratulated Grayson. Then I excused myself, walked out of that house, and never looked back. They didn't know that I had personally guaranteed several critical payments coming due next week. They didn't know that my signature was the only thing keeping their supply chain alive. But they were about to find out. You see, the thing about hearts? When they walk away, everything else stops beating too. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't need to. When you walk away from people who never really saw you, there's nothing worth taking. I left Ashbourne that night, just me and my beat-up '98 Subaru, the one Dad always said wasn't appropriate for a Whitaker. Maybe that's why I loved it. I drove until the streetlights disappeared and the silence got loud enough to drown out the echo of his words. "Grayson will lead us now. He's got potential. It just makes sense." You know what didn't make sense? How I saved them. How I poured every dollar, every ounce of myself into their sinking ship. And somehow I was still the expendable one. My phone buzzed for hours. Calls from Mom, from Grayson, even a few from Dad, as if he suddenly remembered I existed. I didn't answer. By dawn, I crossed into Spokane, Washington, rented a tiny apartment with a peeling front door and a view of a brick wall. It was perfect. It was mine. I pulled out my laptop and logged into the company accounts. I knew exactly which payments were scheduled to process that Friday. I knew the suppliers who were teetering on the edge, the ones who only agreed to keep working with us because I gave them my personal guarantees. It would have been easy to keep things running. A few clicks, a few approvals, and my family would have kept sailing on the calm waters I built for them. But easy wasn't on the table anymore. Not for them. I revoked my personal guarantees. I canceled 2 critical payment extensions tied to my name. I notified the freight broker I was stepping away from all pending commitments. Legally, I was clean. Morally, that was their burden now. They wanted Grayson to lead? Let him feel the weight of the wheel when the storm hits. The silence was delicious. For 3 days, not a word. No messages. No calls. On the 4th day, the first cracks appeared. Missed payment notices. Supply delays. Creditors pulling back. Day 5, the panic calls started. First, Mom. Sweetheart, your father didn't mean to. You know how he is. Can we just talk? Then Grayson. Marlo, I didn't ask for this. They threw me in. I don't even know what I'm doing. Please, just help me get through this quarter. Finally, Dad. Marlo, you need to come back. It's falling apart. We need you. But they didn't need me. Not when it mattered. They needed someone they could use. I blocked their numbers. I sat on the floor of my apartment that night. No furniture, no friends in this city, just me and a quiet cup of instant coffee. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel responsible for anyone else's survival. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the strongest thing you'll ever do. You know what's funny? For years, I thought the worst thing that could happen was the business collapsing. Turns out, watching it collapse without lifting a finger, that was the sweetest thing I've ever tasted. The headlines came first. Whitaker Freight faces financial crisis amid sudden payment defaults. Local logistics giant on brink of bankruptcy. It spread fast in Ashbourne. People talk when old money starts to rot. I knew the timing. I'd built the entire system myself. Without my guarantees, without my quiet negotiations in back rooms and on 3 a.m. phone calls, the walls would crumble in less than a week. And they did. I got an email from Grayson's assistant, probably his last desperate attempt before the ship went under. Subject line, "Please help us, Marlo." I didn't even open it. Then I heard they tried to sell the company truck fleet to cover emergency debts. Problem was, the trucks were still leased under contracts I personally renegotiated, contracts that now defaulted because I'd withdrawn my backing. The leasing companies swooped in and took them back overnight. No trucks. No business. No legacy. Dad started leaving voicemails. "Marlo, I made a mistake. I see that now. You were the one holding this family together. Marlo, I shouldn't have done what I did. Please just call me back. We're losing everything." They were right. They were losing everything. I wasn't. See, while they were scrambling to hold on to a dying empire, I was quietly building something new. I took my remaining savings, the little I'd tucked away, and bought into a small logistics startup in Spokane. They were young, lean, hungry. They didn't care about my last name. They cared that I knew how to fight. I wasn't Franklin Whitaker's daughter here. I was Marlo, the woman who pulled a freight company from the grave and walked away on her own terms. It felt good to build something for me. It felt even better to know that my family couldn't touch it. Grayson sent me one last message. "I don't know how you could do this to us." I almost replied. Almost. But what would I say? "I learned it from you. You made me disposable first. Welcome to the lesson." I deleted the message. Let him figure it out on his own. Let them all figure it out. Because I wasn't their safety net anymore. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't their daughter who would always come home to fix the mess. That Marlo? She doesn't exist anymore. When you walk away, there's always this quiet voice in the back of your mind asking, will they come after me? But they didn't. Not with apologies. Not with lawsuits. Not with anything. They just disappeared. I thought maybe they were licking their wounds. Maybe they were too proud to admit they'd lost me. Or maybe, just maybe, they finally realized I wasn't coming back. Either way, I never heard from them again. That silence, it didn't hurt like I expected. It was peace. I dove headfirst into the Spokane startup, Renwick Logistics, run by 2 brilliant women, Briar and Celine, who built the company with sweat and stubbornness, not hand-me-down money like my father. They didn't ask me to fix their mess. They invited me to build something better. They gave me equity, a seat at the table, and one golden rule: no one gets left behind. It felt foreign at first, to be trusted, to be wanted for my mind, not just my ability to clean up disasters. I started traveling again. New Orleans, Denver, Toronto. I signed deals, expanded our networks, negotiated contracts that didn't need to be saved from collapse because they were solid from the start. For the first time, I wasn't the emergency contact. I was the architect, and I started doing things for myself. I scheduled that heart surgery I'd put off for 3 years. Simple procedure, quick recovery. When I woke up in the hospital alone, I realized something. I didn't need anyone to show up for me. I was showing up for myself now. And maybe that's what this whole thing was about. I'd spent my whole life being the net underneath everyone else's tightrope. I thought if I was strong enough, reliable enough, they'd see me. They'd value me. They'd choose me. But they didn't. And the day I stopped waiting for them to choose me, that's the day I finally chose myself. I walked out of that hospital with a scar and a second chance. Both suited me just fine. Ashbourne? It's just a pin on a map now. My family? They're strangers with my last name. And me? I'm just getting started. It had been 6 months. 6 months since I walked away. 6 months since I let the Whitaker name burn itself to the ground. 6 months since I heard my father's voice or saw Grayson's name light up my phone. And I thought I was done with them. I really did. Until the letter came. No emails this time. No voicemails. No social media. An actual letter in my father's handwriting, messy, rushed, as if the words were falling out faster than his hand could keep up. It wasn't an apology. Not really. It was desperation in ink. We've lost everything. The house is gone. The business is gone. Your mother left me. Grayson moved to Chicago. He won't speak to me either. I was wrong. About you. About everything. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here. No address. Just a phone number scribbled at the bottom. Funny. After everything, he still expected me to call. I folded the letter, slid it into the back of my desk drawer, and locked it away. That chapter was closed. I didn't owe him closure. I didn't owe him a damn thing. But the truth? It didn't feel like revenge anymore. It felt like release. The longer I stayed in Spokane, the lighter I became. Renwick Logistics was thriving. We opened a second branch in Salt Lake City. I got to hire people who reminded me of myself. People who had been overlooked, passed over, underestimated. I hired a woman who was raising 2 kids alone after her husband left. I hired a guy who'd been told he was too quiet to lead. I hired a team that didn't fit into anyone else's box. And we built something real. Something honest. Something that didn't need a family name stamped on it to prove its worth. One evening, Briar and Celine invited me to dinner. They'd just signed a major deal that would double our operations by the next year. Over champagne and cheap tacos, Briar raised her glass and said, "Marlo, we wouldn't be here without you. You're the spine of this company." It hit me. Not the heart. Not the safety net. The spine. The thing that holds everything upright. I smiled. Not the polite, careful smile I used to wear like armor back in Ashbourne. This one was real. I finally realized. I don't need to go back to prove anything. I don't need their approval. I never did. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for their family to see them. Others build new families who already do. I chose the second one, and it was the best decision I ever made. I used to think my last name defined me. Whitaker. It was printed on trucks, stitched on uniforms, painted across the front of the warehouse like some royal seal. It was supposed to mean something, but it didn't. Not really. Not after I walked away and realized I could build something bigger without it. In Spokane, people didn't flinch when they heard my name. They didn't lower their voices or lean in like I was connected to some dynasty. To them, I was just Marlo. And I loved that. I loved the clean slate. I loved that when I introduced myself, no one asked, "Oh, are you related to Franklin Whitaker?" Because I wasn't anymore. Not in the ways that mattered. Months passed. The startup grew. I became a partner, not just in title, but in ownership. I bought my own place, a loft with creaky floors and a giant bay window that overlooked the city. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't polished, but it was mine. Bought with my money, built with my work. No one else's name on the deed. I started traveling again, this time not to fix someone else's disasters, but because I wanted to see the world I'd been too busy saving other people from. Florence, the trip I canceled all those years ago. I went. I stood on the Ponte Vecchio, watched the Arno River turn gold at sunset, and thought, this was supposed to be the life I postponed. But maybe it was always waiting for me on the other side of goodbye. Sometimes I wonder if my father still waits for a call that won't come. Sometimes I wonder if Grayson ever understood what he was handed and what he lost. But most days, I don't think about them at all. I think about the life I built, the people I chose, the version of myself I finally became when I stopped asking for permission to exist. My name is Marlo Whitaker, but that's just a label. The real thing? The one that no one can take away? I am mine. I always was.